You're listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast, where we talk about growing up with narcissistic moms, how it shapes your nervous system, your relationships, and your sense of self, and how to heal without shame. I'm your host, Noelani Pearl Hernandez. Today's episode is sponsored by plant-powered body care that actually works. In today's episode, we'll be talking about something that society still struggles to acknowledge. Abuse has no gender. My guest today is Doug Buggle, survivor, advocate, and featured voice in the Narcissistic Playbook. Doug shares his firsthand experience of being married to a covert narcissist with a narcissist personality disorder and the emotional, psychological, financial, and legal realities that followed. In this conversation, we will talk about the confusion, the gaslighting, and the accusations that were actually confessions, the adrenaline and dopamine cycles of living in survival mode, and what it takes to finally stand up to an abuser after years of manipulation. We'll also talk about something deeply important to me, the fact that men can be victims too. Abuse does not discriminate. The patterns are often the same, even when the stories look completely different on the surface. Doug, thank you so much for being here with me today and being willing to share your story. I first learned about your story when I watched the trailer to the Narcissist Playbook, which they had their first premiere actually this week at BAFTA. And I'm excited about being a part of, letting people know about it. And often men really don't talk about abuse that occurs in relationships, either narcissistic relationships or other relationships that they have with women. And you kind of talk about that a little bit about your book, but that was one of the reasons why I reached out to you, because narcissistic abuse happens to everyone. It's not, it doesn't care about your gender. It doesn't care about your sexual orientation. It just happens. And so I think it's really important that we talk about it. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Can you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about who you are, just so we can kind of get the lay of the land?
Yeah, and how I got involved with the film.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm Doug Buggle. I'm now 54.
Mhm.
I'm a father and author of my book that I wrote. And I have two amazing adult children now that are mine. And so I got involved with the film. And I don't call myself a victim. I don't like that word. I'm a narcissistic abuse survivor. And yeah, my battle cry is abuse has no gender. And so I got involved with the film because of one of the very first podcast I ever did was Dimming the Gaslight. Which is an amazing podcast. They're actually made top 20 of the best top 20 narcissism podcasts. And so I found him through a Facebook group I belong to. And so I did a very early episode 16, but I've been on it 3 different times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've become really close with the co-hosts, Mac and Phil. So he had reached out to me after I did the first episode, which pretty much told my whole story, saying that the filmmakers of the Narcissist Playbook actually contacted him to be in it. But at that point, he has children. He didn't want to reveal his face.
Right.
And so he said, hey, you need to listen, because they were looking for male survivors.
Yes.
And he said, you need to reach out to this guy. So he pointed me to their Instagram. And before they could reach out to me, I went to their Instagram and said, hey, I'm a male survivor, would love to talk to you guys. And then they got a hold of me. And then it just kind of started from there. Because I was not afraid to show my face. I wasn't afraid to tell my story. I wanted to tell my story to help other, not just men, but women too.
Yeah.
And so then I got involved, and I filmed for it over 2.5 years ago.
Wow. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this film has been in the years making. And
Wow.
it's going to be insane.
I often talk about how cult leaders are very similar in the way they abuse and the way they build their victims up or their survivors up as narcissistic parents. Are narcissistic abusers. And, there was a post that we posted a while ago about how narcissistic mothers and cult personalities are very similar. So I'm pretty excited about having them on to talk about how they came out. I think that Mark Vicente's wife, Bonnie, was so strong, being, part of the first survivors to kind of step out and, be the whistleblower. So I'm really excited you were a part of this, and
Yes,
excited that,
me too.
yeah, and excited that 2.5 years later, you're going to be able to see all the work that's done on it. So fingers crossed, you're going to be great. And I
Oh
can't wait
yeah.
to see, we were able to, there's a group of us that were able to screen the movie previously, and I loved it. It was fantastic. And the moment uh, Kimberly Weeks, who was one of our first guests, she and I had the same like, holy shit.
Yes.
What the hell?
I know.
So,
I have family coming into town from Arizona.
oh, that's so great.
My girlfriend's parents are going to be there. So yeah,
Hmm.
I get to meet Dr. Romney, which is going to be crazy.
Oh my
Yeah, because
gosh.
the producer Scott told me when they sent me the invite, he said that besides Dr. Romney, you're going to be the only one there that's in the movie.
That's
And
so
he's like, so
exciting.
be ready for some attention. And I'm like, okay.
You got this. You got this. And she's so cutting edge. We had a therapist that's part of the 80 therapists in the US that has gone through her specific narcissistic abuse course. And and we'll talk about this later about like the fad of narcissistic abuse. And I say that because there's a lot of like language that's used, but it's not actual narcissistic abuse because there's like you have to meet 5 of the 9 criteria in
Mhm,
order to be
mhm.
named a narcissist. Narcissists don't go to therapy. They make their, survivors go to therapy. There's a whole
Yeah.
thing. So, but we'll talk about that later. So tell me, um, for those, and I laugh because I heard what you said in the movie, but for those who are just meeting you, how would you describe your experience in just a few sentences
My experience with the
with
movie
narcissistic abuse?
with narcissistic abuse. So, for I was married to her for 12 years,
Hmm.
and I didn't know anything about narcissism until I moved out and we were going through the divorce. So
Mm-hmm.
for 12 years, I didn't know what narcissism was.
Hmm.
I didn't know what was happening to me because at the time during the marriage, I was just always trying. I'm always trying to please her, always trying to make her happy, always trying to stay ahead of her. Always, I mean, she
Hmm. Hmm.
nitpicked and complained about everything
Hmm.
inside the home.
Hmm.
And it was crazy because outside of the home, before we get into her type of narcissism,
Hmm.
you'll probably guess it. Outside of the home, it was completely different. I mean,
Hmm.
she was nice to me. She was
Hmm.
funny and bubbly, and whether we had people at our house for like Super Bowl parties or
Hmm.
barbecues, or we were at
Hmm.
someone
Hmm.
else's house, or we were out wherever we were, that's what I yearned for. I
Hmm.
always wanted to. I was so excited whenever we would have people over because then I knew she would be
Hmm.
nice to me,
Right.
and it was semi-normal.
Hmm.
But then on the days when we weren't doing that, because you can't do
Hmm.
that every day,
Hmm.
um, things were much different. It was the nitpicking, complaining about my son, psychologically abusing him,
Hmm. Hmm.
being hard on her kids, and just complaining about every little thing in the household.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a funny little thing that people still get blown away by is that like she had these rules, man, and like you weren't allowed to drink your beverage outside of the kitchen area. You couldn't do it on the couch in front of the TV or whatever. And
Hmm.
she had these coasters made with everybody's names on it, except for hers. And you had to keep your cup on the counter by the refrigerator and go to it
Yeah.
each drink. And it's insane, right? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's insane. So everybody was on edge. She set the tone for the home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I totally like I get the whole like making your home nice, like making sure, okay,
sure,
maybe the
sure.
kids spill a little bit and you're just trying, let's put it in a sippy cup or a water bottle or whatever. But like that you all had your names on your own coasters. What would happen? I know this is like a serious question, but also I'm laughing at it because it's a lot of
Yeah.
similarities to my mother. What would happen if you, Doug, put your cup on your son's coaster?
Nah, nothing really
Nothing.
happened
It
at
wasn't
that
that
point.
bad. Okay, good.
It was because I don't think she looked that closely. It was just making sure that it was on a coaster. And I
Yeah.
remember mine, and then I ended up switching mine out for I'm a Steelers fan. So
Oh, okay.
I remember my coaster.
Sorry.
My coaster was the Steelers logo. Um,
Oh,
you
okay.
know,
Hmm.
and so, but now that wasn't really. It was just if anybody was caught walking around with their cup in their hand, it was she would get all upset, and she
Yeah.
would, and it wasn't like yelling and screaming.
Yeah,
It
it
wasn't like that.
was. Hmm.
Covert
Hmm.
narcissism is,
Yeah.
you know, somebody's walking around without their coaster, or what? Somebody's da, 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 and it's just
Yeah.
this weird, like,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
dog. I had
Yeah.
a Chihuahua, and that dog, because it's a Chihuahua, would pee on the carpet once in a while,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I got so paranoid that the dog wasn't allowed to be off of my lap if it was in the house.
Really? Oh my
Yes. And
gosh.
so if I was watching something and the dog jumped down off of me, I would panic inside and I would watch the dog and okay, she's just going to get a drink of water and then she would come
Yeah.
back to me.
Right.
If she would see her walking around and she would be like, "Why is Ginger walking around the
Oh my
house?"
gosh. Oh my
Oh my
God.
God,
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of eggshells that you're walking on.
Yes,
And I
constantly
mean,
walking on eggshells.
and that's it's and in regards to this, because my mom was a covert narcissist where, on the outside, which is what makes it even more difficult, right? With the malignant narcissist, they're like meaner, they're abuse, like you can see it. It's like sometimes you can see it, but with a covert narcissist on the outside, like everyone's like, oh, your mom is so great. I'm like, you don't understand, she's a freaking bitch. Like she
Yeah,
is psycho.
yeah,
and and
yeah.
anybody I would tell, any family members, the only person, and I love my dad to death. And he was like set up from the start to be with a narcissist because of his family systems growing up with his mom. And I like, even now to this day, when I say, and they're not married, they haven't been together for over 35 years. When I say, mom was crazy, I don't even call her a narcissist around my dad. But I say, well, mom was crazy. She was a lot. And he says, oh, that's just your mom. I'm like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Like, she's the reason why you ended up with another narcissist. And
Hmm.
that narcissist might be the reason why your girlfriend
Yeah.
might be a narcissist, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't met her yet. So,
Yeah.
I
And
just,
back to the
yeah,
dog really fast.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
she knows how much I love that dog and she hated that dog. And the dog was attached to me because Chihuahuas are companion dogs.
yeah.
And she actually said in her divorce papers that I abused the dog and that I used to beat, kick, and punch the dog,
Oh
and
my
that I once
gosh.
threw it against the piano.
What a bitch. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
God. I know.
I'm so sorry.
And I was reading it in my apartment with her on my lap, asleep.
Oh, poor
And
thing.
I was in tears. I was in tears. I was like,
Yeah.
kidding me? I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's the thing. When the narcissists also say, like, throw it back at you, like they say that, no, you're the abuser. I remember my mom threw a baby shower for me when I had my daughter, right before I had my daughter, like 30 years ago. And my mom had, I was living with my mom because California is expensive. You live in California. California is expensive. So living on your own is crazy. But I
Yeah.
was living with my mom until I was pregnant, and then I moved out. But I remember my mom, I was like 6 months pregnant, and my mom was like coming to hit me. Like we were arguing about something. I don't remember the argument, but I remember like what physically was happening. And my mom came at me, and my mom's very tiny. I'm 5'1", she's 4'11". She came charging at me to hit me. And like I blocked it. And when I blocked it, I hit her on the arm because I was like, like, get away from me. Like, stop. This
Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
about me. Like, I wouldn't care if it was just me, but I was pregnant with a human. And so I remember being at the baby shower, and my mom wore like a sleeveless dress to my baby shower. So the bruise showed. Now I had bruises from her also hitting me, but I wore long sleeves because I was like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
This is too much. And so every time ever someone would come up, oh my gosh, what happened? She would say, oh, nothing, nothing happened. I was like, are you
Yeah.
shitting me? Like, come on. I was like, you are not the victim, lady.
Right. Right.
And For me, and maybe this occurred with you, for so many survivors, they don't realize when they're in this narcissistic abuse until years later.
Right.
And so when did you like start to have that realization that what happened in that 12 years you were married to her wasn't just her being difficult, but she was a crazy narcissist?
Are you talking about the moment I realized I needed to leave, or like when I discovered narcissism and realized
When you
what she was?
discover
Okay,
narcissism.
so it was after I had moved out. So we went. I asked her for a temporary separation
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I knew that something wasn't right. And there
Hmm.
was a big incident with my son. We can talk about later that
Yeah.
realized I need to go. And I was like, I want. So I moved in, and she agreed to a temporary separation. And I moved in with a friend temporarily. It was 3 months,
Mhm.
and we were, believe it or not, going on date nights and in marriage counseling and all that stuff. And
She went to
so,
therapy. Good for her.
oh no, it was the triangulation of the marriage counseling.
Oh, got it. Okay.
We were actually in marriage counseling like 6 months prior to me moving out, and
Okay.
it was virtual, so we were meeting every week,
Mm-hmm.
and with this
Mm-hmm.
lady, and she picked her. She, of course, the typical playbook, and she,
Mm-hmm.
triangulated me against, she triangulated the therapist to be against me, blaming
Mm-hmm.
everything on
Mm-hmm.
me and whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so I
Mm-hmm.
don't think this therapist knew much about narcissism because
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
it pretty much worked into her favor. But
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I had first moved out, it was actually when the temporary separation was over and she suddenly filed for divorce. It's when the discard happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was emotionally distraught. I was in the middle of the trauma bond. I was
Mm-hmm.
addicted to
Mm-hmm.
her. I wanted to go home. I wanted to go back,
Mm-hmm.
like all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. And I was driving back from a trip to Northern California. I used to cover
Mm-hmm.
Northern California for my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving back and I was just distraught. And so I just looked up self help for men. How do you get over an
Mm-hmm.
ex spouse? I wasn't putting in the
Mm-hmm.
narcissism words. And I
Mm-hmm.
came across a podcast, and the psychologist, I was starting to listen to it, and the psychologist talked about narcissism, and it was the abuse cycle. And when she
Mm-hmm.
said love bombing,
Mm-hmm.
devaluing, discard, and then I
Mm-hmm.
remember her saying it's not linear. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
love bombing, stop,
Right.
devaluing, stop.
Right.
It can go back and forth between the two. Even
Mm-hmm.
after the discard, it can start over. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that made me start and then when she started explaining what love bombing was, I thought back to when we first got married and how she would call me her Superman and
Mm-hmm.
put me on the
Mm-hmm.
pedestal and did all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And as
Mm-hmm.
it progressed through, then it went to the devaluing. That's
Mm-hmm.
when it all started to click.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I, when I got home, I jumped on YouTube and I started
Mm-hmm.
now putting in female narcissism,
Mm-hmm.
narcissist, narcissistic abuse,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden the checklists come up, like you talked about:
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ghost, overt,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, malignant. And I
Mm-hmm.
started doing the checklist for each one. Like, oh, she has like one or two of those. She's not
Mm-hmm.
grandiose. She's not
Yeah.
malignant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there was this one video that defined everything. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember the guy's name. He was a psychologist. It's like a 20-minute video, and it was called Female Narcissist Wife.
Oh my
And
gosh. Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
listened to this, and I swear to you, it was like I was sitting in the office with him, and he was talking to me about her. Because
Wow.
every single thing he's talked about, the nitpicking, the nagging, the manipulation, the control, the gaslighting, all the things that I didn't know what these terms meant.
Right.
All I knew was he's describing her to a T. So that's when I realized female covert narcissist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I just started doing more research. This was before I even sat down and wrote my book. I mean, I
Yeah.
was just, I had an answer. It wasn't any less painful, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it did make me feel a little bit better that that's when I suddenly realized maybe it's not me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not me. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes in the marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Not
Everyone
marriage
does.
ending
We're
mistakes. Right,
humans.
right,
Yeah, we're humans. Everyone
right.
makes
I'm not sitting
mistakes.
here saying I'm this perfect guy, but I
Yeah.
knew that all these things that were happening to me wasn't me. So
Right.
that's where I started my journey. But then, that's when I started my journey of researching narcissism and
Mhm.
narcissistic abuse.
What do you believe was happening at the time during the marriage when you didn't have like this is a narcissist versus what you actually know now was happening. Like, what did you believe was happening in the marriage?
Okay, so what I know what was happening during the marriage, the, the narcissistic terms, no
Yeah.
empathy,
Yeah. Yeah.
trying, making me feel worthless, because that's what they
Hmm.
do. They make you
Yeah.
feel worthless.
Yeah.
They try to destroy you, but the key is they don't feel bad about doing it,
I know
right? They
that's
don't
it.
feel
Yeah.
bad about doing it. Like the discard was so horrible. We can get to that later. But
Mhm.
and during the marriage, all I thought was, it's so hard to describe because they're micro moments in time. That's what I say in the book. It's one day good, one
Mhm.
day bad, one day
Yes.
good,
Hmm.
and then there's enough of niceness. There's enough of, every time I did something good for her,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
an example was she still works at the high school
Hmm.
right
Hmm.
across the street from the house we lived in, like literally
Mm.
across the street. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
she would walk to work every day,
Okay.
and I would, you know, get up, whatever, and I would get ready for work, and I would, whatever. But there was always like once or twice a week where she would, she was addicted to Diet Coke, like she was a Diet Coke
Yeah.
fanatic,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and she would always text me and say like, "Oh, hey, sweetheart, can you bring me my Diet? Can you bring me my Diet Coke? I forgot, or my glasses." She would forget her
Yeah. Yeah.
glasses, and I wasn't annoyed at that. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
super pumped up and excited
Yeah. You're
because,
like,
like I
yes, I
said
get to see
before,
it.
I get
Yeah.
to do
Hmm.
something good, and I'll be
Yeah.
the good boy, and I'll get to go
Yeah.
there, and she'll be nice to me, right?
Right.
So I would go across the street, and I would, at the time, she was the receptionist, like the front administrative
Hmm.
office,
Hmm. Yeah.
switchboard
Yeah.
operator. So you
Yeah.
walk right in, there she
And
is,
she,
and then
yeah.
most of the time there'd be a coworker or two that I
Yeah.
knew,
So she would
and
be
she
nice.
was doting on me, and
Yeah.
isn't he the best husband ever? And I love you so much. And there's that. But
Right.
then I would leave and go to work on this high. It's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
drug. I
Yeah.
got my
Dopamine.
shot,
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
the
Adrenaline. Yeah.
dopamine.
Hmm.
Yep. And then I would go through work, and then that would wear off. And then I would be on my way home from work, and I would dread coming home
Yep. Hmm.
because I don't know which version of her I'm going to get,
Right.
you know?
Right. And
And
then, yep. Hmm.
yeah, and
And a
so
lot
day to
of
day,
kids
it
go
was
through
just
that
this
too.
balancing act of walking on
Yeah.
eggshells,
Yeah.
trying to stay ahead of her,
Yep.
making sure everything's in its place, making sure everything's done. And
Hmm.
so that way, maybe when she comes home, she'll be in a good mood and she'll have nothing to complain about. But you know what's so
Yeah.
ironic is that she complained and nitpicked about everything, but she would, her little phrase or slangs, whatever catchphrase
Yeah.
she would
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
is if anybody else got upset or complained about something, she
Yeah.
would say, "There's no complainers in this house. We don't complain about things. Suck it up, Buttercup." She would always say, "Suck it up, Buttercup."
Oh my goodness. Oh my
And you
gosh.
you and you believed in that. Like
Yeah.
you bought into it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing when it comes down to it, because, I was talking to a client, one of my clients, on the narcissistic relationship recovery side. And they were talking about how they've recently gotten no contact, and they were talking about how like hard it was because any interaction with them, negative or positive, they were saying it is enough, like any kind of attention.
right,
And when I asked, so like, why is it that you want to talk to your mother? Like, you know exactly what she's going to say. Like, for a T, know exactly the voicemail. My mom still leaves me voicemails. It's been 11 years. I haven't talked to her. I know exactly word for word what she's going to say. And she said, well, it's just, I just feel like I'm in trouble. Any attention is good attention from her. Um, you know, she's my mom. I want her in my life. And I said, what makes you think you're not worth a good relationship with your mom? What is telling you? Because for me, my mom might as well be dead. The
right.
kind of relationship I had with her was just not healthy. And for me, I didn't realize that until I got with my husband, 11 years ago, when that love wasn't conditional,
Hmm.
when if there was a dish in the sink, it wouldn't be an issue. And unfortunately, my first, relationship was a narcissistic a spouse. So I came from a narcissistic mom to a narcissistic spouse and then was alone.
Mm-hmm.
and was like, I'm never going to be with anybody because I'm fine with being alone. I couldn't risk it. And then, and I say this, my Prince Charming, my Superman, all the things, the perfect person came and we just meshed and it went really well.
Mm-hmm.
And,
That's
you
good.
know, looking back now, do you think that there were like early signs that something wasn't right in your relationship with this person?
The earliest sign I can remember is we had just gotten married and I
Hmm.
got a speeding ticket.
Hmm.
And grown man, like whatever, I got a
Yeah,
speeding
who cares?
ticket.
Yeah.
I was paying for, I paid for, at that time, her kids were little, so she wasn't working. She was a stay-at-home mom,
Mm-hmm.
and which is fine. And I didn't even give two thoughts about it to tell
Yeah,
her. Like I
because
didn't,
yeah, who cares?
whatever. And
Yeah,
it came in the mail like a
yeah,
week or two
yeah.
later, and she went out to check the mail. And I remember exactly, I was sitting on the couch, and she comes in and she opens up the mail and she starts berating me and yelling at me. Why are you lying to me about a
Oh
speeding ticket?
Lord.
I can't believe you got a speeding ticket. We can't afford this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'll pay for it. It's not a big deal. Why didn't you
Yeah,
tell me? I said, because I didn't even think to tell you. It was happened like 2 weeks
yeah,
ago.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
I remember her anger and her just anger towards me getting a speeding ticket, you
yeah.
know?
That's silly. It's
It's so silly. And that was the first moment where I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like,
yeah,
that was
y-
weird,
yeah,
And then as
yeah,
time went by, as later in life, as time went by, little things that I didn't want her to know about, I was conscious of. And you
mm-hmm,
end up finding yourself lying to them about little things
mm-hmm,
on purpose because you
hmm.
don't want to hear it. You don't
Right,
want to face
right.
the wrath. You don't
Yeah.
want to face the wrath
It's
of
so weird. Yeah,
finding something out. Like there
yeah.
was a no drinking policy. And because we used to be Mormon,
That's
we're
I'm
not
laughing
Mormon
'cause-
anymore. We're not Mormon
yeah,
anymore. We used to be Mormon. And so there's no, I'm not answering to any code of any religion because I didn't used to drink when I
yeah,
was Mormon, but I had
yeah.
to keep that from her because there was no one's allowed to drink. And I remember I went to Northern California and a customer of mine took me to a 49ers game and I
That's our
had a
team.
to
Steelers.
go and I had a we tailgated and I
Yeah.
think I had a beer or two
Yeah.
and I don't know why I put the cap, the bottle, the beer cap in my pocket. I don't know why, because I'm not a
Oh,
litter
yeah.
bug, so I think
Yeah.
there
So
was no
you
trash
probably
can.
put it in your pocket to throw it
Well,
away on the way in.
I
Yeah.
didn't. I got home.
Mhm.
And it's a Saturday. I'm laying on the couch, and she did the laundry, and I
Mhm.
remember it was a
Mhm.
shock top,
Yeah, yeah.
and she found it, and when she
Yeah.
walked in the house, she threw it at me.
That's crazy. And
And
the
she
reason
was
why
so mad at me because I had a beer.
and the reason why I laughed was not because of, the Mormonism and that, I know that you don't drink in Mormonism, but that you said that the house had a policy.
Yeah.
There's a policy. Like that's
Uh-huh.
crazy talk. Like that's
Yeah,
crazy
no
talk.
alcohol allowed in the house.
Yeah. Because,
So that's
who
something
talks right, right. Who
I'd go
talks
out
about
with
policies
clients.
like
Yeah,
that?
I'd go out with clients on my business trips, and I would have a cocktail or two. I would
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah,
was not irresponsible with it.
yeah,
And I didn't tell her. I kept it from her because I knew I didn't want to face the wrath of it.
yeah.
So then,
You
what the
know,
narcissist
yeah.
does is when she does find out
Mhm.
during the divorce or whatever, oh, so
Yeah.
you lied to me about the
You were
drinking. What else are
yes.
you lying about? What else are
Yes.
you hiding from me?
Yes.
Oh, so you did cheat on me because that was another
Yeah.
accusation, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that when it when it comes to these relationships, um, there's always like specific moments that you can point out to. And like for me, my specific moment, my mom was always like this for ever since I was little. I could probably name like 10 things because a lot of my childhood I don't remember, but I could probably tell you 10 things and you're like, oh my God, she's a narcissist. But for me, the part where I thought wasn't normal was when my mom tried to hit me when I was pregnant. And I think it was my daughter, at the time that really kind of brought me back to my senses to realize that all the shit that my mom was saying wasn't true. And, and I talk about, who saved my life. It was my mom. And then later on, my husband, and I will talk about that later. But one of the things that you talk about in your book, and you've talked about it a couple times, is that there was a moment with your son Jet that
Hmm.
happened,
Hmm.
and this was with your ex-wife, and that kind of was the moment where you're like, I'm fucking done. This is it. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about
Yeah.
that?
So at this point, Jet was 16. Now,
Hmm.
again, remember, no one's perfect, but my son is Mormon. He just got back from his 2 year Mormon
Oh,
mission, and he went to Thailand.
oh wow!
Um, yep,
Congratulations!
he's now attending BYU.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, we actually got to go to Thailand in October for 3 weeks when he was
Fun.
released. He showed us all around his
That's
mom and
so fun.
stepdad and me and my girlfriend. It was great. So
Oh,
at that
that's
point, though, at
beautiful.
16,
That's
he hadn't even kissed a girl.
aw.
He took
Yeah.
his faith very seriously,
Good.
right? He was
Yeah.
faithful in the religion. And
Yeah.
I want to point that out because of what happened. So
Hmm.
he had come to the house for the weekend, and
Hmm.
she had a rule: no computers in the bedrooms. And it was time to go to bed. And I said, "Hey, get your backpack, put it away. Time to go to bed." He's like, "Okay." He took his backpack in the it was on the chair, whatever. This is why the whole
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So he took it in the bedroom. He put his laptop on the floor and was charging it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Went to bed. So
Yeah.
the next day, him and we had to run errands. He put the laptop up on his bed, still with the charger connected because he didn't want it on the floor. We
Right.
left, did our errands. We came home, and
Hmm.
she now confronts him, 16 years old. He's 6'2",
Hmm.
and she says to him, we have a rule about computers. Why is your computer in the bedroom? And she starts berating him,
Hmm.
and she's firing, berate, and not giving him time to answer, making him nervous. She's like,
Hmm.
"Why was your
Hmm.
computer in the bedroom?" And he's like, "Well, Dad told me to put it away, and I was charging
Yeah.
it."
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, "No, you're lying to me because your backpack's over there on the chair." Well, I brought my backpack out, so now he's confused.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
Because his
that's what they
answer
do.
is,
Yeah.
and then she starts accusing him of looking at porn. She's like, I know that you're looking at porn in the middle of the night. And that's when he did get a little clarity, and he looked at her and he said, I don't do that. That
Right.
is
He
not
takes
true. He
his
actually said
religion
to her,
seriously.
you're lying. I did not do
Wow.
that. Now I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching this, and
Yeah.
he's up in his face, and she's pointing her
Yeah.
finger saying,
Yeah.
you're a liar. I know you were watching
Yeah.
porn.
Yeah.
And she's berating. And it's at that moment when the light bulb switched to me, because I'm looking at this almost like an out of body type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, she's treating him exactly the way she treats me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I finally stood up and I said, you know what? We're leaving. Stop it right now. I
Yeah.
told her, stop it. I said,
Yeah.
we're Jet. I said, we're leaving. He's like, okay. He's got tears in his eyes by this point. He's
Poor
starting to cry.
thing. Oh,
I could not tell this story 3 years ago without crying.
yeah. Oh,
And so we leave. I take him home. I come back. Her and I go on a lunch date. And I sat her down and I was like, you know what? I'm sorry. I believe him. I don't know what your problem is, but I believe him. And then she got really mad at me for believing him over her. But it was that moment when I realized I need to get out.
hmm.
I
Hmm.
need to get
Hmm.
out. And it was only a couple of months later when I did finally ask for the temporary separation. But it was that
Yeah.
defining moment with my son.
Yeah. You know,
I wanted to go ahead.
it's so interesting because that reminds me of the first and only time my mother met my husband. So my mom is from the Philippines. My dad's family kind of like adopted her when she came over from the Philippines. Adopted her, not adopted her, but like my parents got married. My dad was in Vietnam. And when she came over, it was like her chosen family. And so my grandfather had passed away, and my mother came to, and he's my dad's dad, came to his funeral. And so my dad and my mom were there, and they hadn't been married for like 30 years then, well, maybe about 25 years then. And my stepmom was there, and my husband was there because my husband and my grandfather met. And my grandfather, I tease my husband all the time. My grandfather said, don't mess this up when he met my husband, because my husband, like, he met my grandfather when he was very sick, and he was helping with, all the things, because my grandfather was like the rock of the family. So all of us were like in utter shock when my grandfather was sick. So we're at his funeral. I'm the oldest of all the grandchildren. All the grandchildren are sitting together. I'm the only one with great grandchildren. So that my daughter was at the end, and I was going to speak. And so my mom tried to come and sit in the pew with us, and we're like, no, this is just for grandchildren. She got real mad, caused a scene, but, decided to let it go. I can't remember who she sat by. But then she came up to me after, and I said, Mom, I want to introduce you to my husband, who was at my boyfriend at the time, Albert. And my mom's 4'11", so teeny tiny. My husband's 6'3". When you said finger in his face and said, I'm not talking to you. I'm only talking to my daughter. And I was like, oh my God, like what's happening here? And my husband, he said, nice to meet you. And then we like kind of, did the quick, went around to everyone, and then we left. And we were going to go back for the internment. And my husband said, I'm going to go pick up the kids, and, why don't you go and do this? And then he and I talked later, and I was like profusely sorry. I was like, please don't let this, her behavior make you think of me that way. We had a long conversation about it. And I was like, no, I'm done. Fuck you. Like, no way. No freaking way. So I was like, it was interesting that you had the same exact story, right? And it was like, I was looking at it from the outside, same exact story, where I was like, no, I'm done. This is it.
Yeah.
This is it. And it's crazy that two totally different people, two totally different genders, from two totally different places and upbringings, can say the same exact story.
Yeah. I know.
Like,
I know. And there's a couple of other things that came to mind that I want to tell you that are shocking.
Yeah.
Rules. Okay. So she was going to college in the end of our marriage. She was going to college to be a teacher. She was going one college course a semester.
That's going to take you like 10 years, but
doesn't take a long time.
Yeah.
But yet she would lock herself in the spare bedroom, which she turned into an office.
I read this. I read it. I read this part of the book.
You read the rules?
Yeah, I read the rules. Like the way you had to come in, like you couldn't interrupt her. And if you and I remember reading the story about you trying to decide whether or not, and I can't remember what exactly it was. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, the three rules were, and she had to literally took me over to the door by the hand and like a child.
Yeah.
Like, these are the rules. And if the door is shut, let's start in reverse. If the door is open, that just means I'm doing homework or something, or reading. Or something. You can come in and you can say hello, and I'll talk to you. If the door is partly open, you have to knock first before entering, because that means I might be taking a test or reading literature. If the door is completely shut, unless somebody is dying or bleeding, do not knock, do not talk to me, don't say hello. If you have to leave, just don't even say goodbye, just go.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
So there was one time where I came home, and the door, I promise you, the door was cracked open. And I came home from work, the door was open, part way, and I knock and I can say hello.
Yeah.
I knocked and said, hey, babe, whatever, probably very timidly.
Yeah.
And she shot out of her chair and started yelling and screaming at me, going totally ballistic. And I told you, the door is shut. I said, the door wasn't shut. It was cracked. Gaslighting. The door wasn't shut. It was cracked open. No, it wasn't. The door was shut. How many times have I told you, do not come in here unless I say it's okay?
That's so crazy. Well, and that's like one of the ways, that gaslighting shows up, because I often call them like little IEDs, right? As you're trying to recover from this type of abuse. And I'm sure you probably experienced this. I know that a lot of the daughters that I work with experience it, where there's like, oh, I haven't talked to this person in a while. And it probably happened like maybe when you were arguing, and, questioning of yourself. Did that really happen that way?
Yeah.
Am I making it up? is there something more that I'm not looking into? Like there's a whole process. And it is good for humans to reflect on the behavior, but this is like different.
Yeah,
This is like real fucked up stuff. Like,
right. And
and
this is a
you
good
know,
transition into the
yeah,
gaslighting because one of your
yeah,
questions was, how
yeah,
did you doubt
mhm,
yourself, right?
yeah,
And I had
yeah,
to think about it, but I'm glad I thought of it because there was a couple of things that I never talked about in any other podcast. Was
yeah, yeah.
the first one was the big one was driving the car with her when I was
Mm-hmm.
when I was driving with her as a passenger.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
I'm still an outside sales rep. I drive
yeah,
probably 50 to 60,000
yeah,
miles a
yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I haven't had a speeding ticket in 20 years,
yeah,
and I know what I'm doing, right?
yeah, yeah.
But when I drove with her, I was constantly on edge. I
Mm-hmm.
was constantly being like berated with, why are you driving so slow? Why are you driving so fast? Why are you parking in this spot and not that park? Why are we going to the restaurant on this road when we should take this road? There's less traffic. So it was all this going on
Right.
constantly.
As you're trying to
And
drive.
right? So we're on the freeway, and let's say I'm switching lanes to the right. She's next to me on the right. I'm not kidding you. Every single time I would turn my head, she would simultaneously turn her head. Now, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but
Yeah,
when all the other stuff is
yeah,
happening,
yeah,
so how does that make me doubt myself? It got to the point to when I was driving with her, I would make mistakes.
yeah, yeah.
I ended up making driving mistakes, which only inflated her self
Yep.
belief that I'm doing it wrong because see, now she's got me making mistakes,
Right. Right.
you know? And we
Yeah.
talk about in the book the infamous vehicle, the Tahoe that I got back.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I first got the Tahoe back, which is it's right there in the driveway, I still have it. When I
Yeah.
got her Tahoe that I bought for her, whatever, it was in my name. When I got it back, my first instinct was to sell it. Like I don't want anything to do
Yeah.
with
You
this
don't
thing,
want anything
right?
around. Yeah.
And I have a side DJ business, and it's a great
Mhm.
vehicle for that. So
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
convinced me to keep it. But the first time I drove in it, like the day after I got it all cleaned and everything from whatever when it was towed to my house, I when I sat in it, I immediately got triggered and was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
start driving around town. I roll down the windows, and then this beautiful calmness came over me like a warm blanket. Was like, you're free of that. Like,
Yep.
what are you like? This is amazing. The radio's going. I'm enjoying this car for the
Hmm.
first
Hmm.
time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm like, no, I'm keeping this shit. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
I've been
Girl,
paying
you're not
for it
going
the
to
last
ruin this.
4 years.
Yeah. You're not going to
Yeah.
ruin this. And, I think that's really, I talk about like, I sage our house every now and then just because like, I
Oh, that's
have this
cool. Yeah, yeah,
feeling,
yeah.
that my mom might be like sending bad vibes this way. Like I'm
Uh-huh.
always thinking about that because I think that for a lot of people, there is not an understanding because they haven't experienced this. Like for me and you to be able to say, hey, this happened, we know, like, we don't need to put much into it. I can say, oh, my mom did this. And you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense because blah, 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 blah. Right. But for other people who experience just, a difficult relationship, they may say, well, that doesn't seem that bad. So, what would you give someone some advice to tell the difference, like based on your experience, what the difference between like a difficult relationship and this like either covert narcissistic or narcissistic abuse looks like and how it might be different.
Well, I mean, a difficult relationship can just look like not being always on the same page, or
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
might
Hmm.
argue over petty things.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but I think, maybe both voices are heard and you do end
Hmm.
up making up. And it's hard to describe that because I mean, okay, I could think back to my other marriage with my kids, and it was a difficult relationship. In the fact that you don't get along and you're maybe growing apart, and
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, it was that person still apologized. That person
Right.
still had some empathy for you and
Right.
felt bad about something they may have said or done, and you knew that that was a genuine apology.
Right.
Versus this last marriage with Covert Narcissist, it's There's never an apology other than, I'm sorry you feel that way,
Ugh,
or you're too
barf. Yeah.
sensitive, or, oh,
Yeah.
I'm just joking around.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just such a difference. And the hard part, the way why it's hard to describe is because if you went into a relationship with a narcissist and right off the bat they start doing this shit, you'd be out of there.
Yeah.
So the
It
trick
like is a
is,
slow build.
yeah, because the trick is they love bomb you and
Hmm.
they keep their mask on and they make you fall for them and you believe that they're this wonderful, amazing person. And then the devaluing starts,
Hmm.
and then they will go back to the love bombing and they go back and forth. And so it's you asked the question, and I'm just going to bring it up now. You asked the
Yeah.
question, what do you wish somebody had said to you
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
relationship? I got three words: look up narcissism. I
Yep.
wish somebody would have said to me, look up narcissism. Again, would it have changed the outcome? It wouldn't have changed the outcome, but it would have changed the way I exited.
Hmm.
It would have
Hmm.
changed the way I exited, and I wouldn't have been so vulnerable to all the false accusations and the
Hmm.
attacks. They probably still would
Hmm.
have happened, but I would have had a much safer exit plan, other than, I want a temporary separation, but I still love you and I want to stay
Hmm.
married to you. And
Hmm.
we're going
Hmm.
to marriage
Hmm.
counseling and we need some
Right.
time apart. All that did was give her the time and
To build it up. Yeah.
to build the
Hmm.
plan,
Hmm.
to build the plan to
Well,
discard.
and I showed this book earlier, Scarred by Sarah Edmond, and she was Mark Vicente, who is a producer of
Yeah.
Narcissistic Playbooks, her business partner, and he brought her into Nexium. And this is the thing that I say about it: the love bombing, the devaluing, the love bombing, the devaluing. The person who was the head of this cult did that. So much so that she branded herself. Like, that's the thing that's crazy. So, like, she physically branded
Wow.
herself. And that to me is like, that is the best way to describe it. The love bomb to value, because they're just building you up, building you up. There's a psychological abuse. You're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with like hormones and dopamine and adrenaline and all those things back and forth, back and forth. And then boom, they do something, they say something just crazy. And you're like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And you talked a
Thank
little
you. You're
bit
worthless.
about, yeah, you talk a little bit about how she built a plan, and you've mentioned like entitlement, and um you've talked about the finances a little bit. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to talk a little bit about like what like that financial abuse looked like, and can you kind of walk us through
Yeah.
that dynamic?
Yeah. And that'll lead into the birthday story and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So the financial abuse. So I mean, I was the breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
I paid the rent, I paid the groceries,
Mm-hmm.
I paid
Mm-hmm.
pretty much all
Mm-hmm.
the household expenses. In the beginning, it was fine, and we agreed upon it. I agreed to it because she wasn't working; she was a stay-at-home
Yeah.
mom. But as
Yeah.
the kids got older, she got the part-time job at the middle school, and then she got the full-time job at the high school. And now she's making decent money,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
still that stayed the same. I
Mm-hmm.
was still
Mm-hmm.
responsible for, because again, by this point, which is wrong on me. I'm not. I should have sat down and I was afraid of her. I was
Mm-hmm.
intimidated by her,
Mm-hmm.
and I should have said, "We need to start. You need to start contributing a little bit now that you're working full time. The kids are in high school. You need to help me because I can't do all this by myself.
Right.
California, very expensive.
California. Yeah.
So what ended up happening? I'm putting more and more things on credit cards and getting more in
Yep.
debt.
Hmm.
And I never did that because I was too afraid to do that. And
Right.
so
Right.
all of her money was her money. All of my money was our money.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I had no idea how much money she had in her bank account. I had no idea. But she knew how much was in our bank account because it was a joint bank account. Now, she didn't abuse our account.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, that was good. But
Hmm. Hmm.
she hoarded all her own money and just kept it to herself and did whatever she did with it. And I'll never forget the first time she had an older Tahoe as well that she
Hmm.
got from her previous marriage. So we ended up having
Hmm.
two of them. But because it was like an extra vehicle. And
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
remember I had gone to the gas station. She put me as an authorized user on her credit card.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I went in her car and
Mm-hmm.
had to put gas in it. And I spent $25 on that
Mm-hmm.
credit card because I didn't have enough money in my account to cover it.
$25 worth of gas. The
And I
difference now.
immediately, as soon as I sat back in the car from getting the gas, she calls me. And I knew it because they gave her an alert that I used the card. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "Where are you right now?" And I said, "I'm at the gas station." She's like, "Why did you use my credit card?" And I said, "I had to put gas in your car." And she
Mm-hmm.
started screaming at me. And she's like, you are not allowed to use that credit card unless I give you permission. And I can't believe you did this. And blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, I never used that credit card again, ever. Never used it again. So another um, financial abuse. I mean, I got a really good bonus the last year we were together from work.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
told her, I said I would pay off her debt and I would pay off my debt. And
Mm-hmm.
she hated debt. She hated debt. She would never go into debt.
But she would
And
build it.
right, she would never, right. It was her own separate credit cards that I
Mm-hmm.
don't
Mm-hmm.
do debt. I don't believe in debt. And so when the push came to shove, I asked her, "Well, how much debt do you think you have?" And she's like, "Well, like maybe $3,000." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." It took her, I said, "But I need to know so I can pay it." It took
Mm-hmm.
like 7 weeks. And when I finally was at a customer, I remember it was in the parking lot. And I called her up. I'm like, I had already paid off all my stuff. I'm like, "Can you please tell me the credit card so I can
Yeah.
go on there and pay it, how much it is?" And she's all sweet and nice. "Oh, well, it's more like $8,000." So I paid it, but it was like
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
that emptied the bonus. I mean, by that it was like done.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was just it was like her ex had to pay child support, and she would sit there and complain and complain and complain that he's 2 days late on the child support check, and he would put it in the mailbox in front of our house. And then after the divorce, I found out from them that sometimes she would go months before she cashed them. While she's complaining to me that they're one day late on the child support. There's so much I learned from them because I'm
Oh
really
my
good friends with
gosh.
their second ex-husband. I
Yeah.
am so much I've learned from them that are
Yeah.
the same similar shit she would tell me that was totally false,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And he's the one that told me you need to make sure you Venmo your alimony payment so you have a record because she'll just say she didn't get it.
That's so crazy. It's really interesting. You alluded to like past relationships and how people know whether it's like psychological abuse or a difficult relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out something that you said earlier that you and your son's mother and her new boyfriend or husband and you and your girlfriend all went to Thailand together
Mm-hmm.
to see your son. That's
Yes.
how you can tell the difference. Like you got divorced from her, you are no longer with her, but you all have a son together. And
Yes.
that's just a difficult relationship. That's just a relationship that didn't work out.
Right.
And
And
I
let me
think
tell
for
you
me,
how let me tell you how amazing this woman is, and we're super
mm,
close.
mm,
I don't want to cry. Hopefully, I won't tear up when I say the story. But the first day in Bangkok,
mm,
we were told to meet because he's at the temple, and
okay.
he
Mm,
can't be. He's released in the temple, and we can't
mm,
see him. We had got there a couple days before to
mm,
adjust
mm.
the time, and we hadn't seen him
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
We're like, I can't
Yeah,
believe we're
yeah.
this close to him and we can't
Yeah,
see him.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so she's at a different hotel a few miles away, and she's like, "Hey, here's the address to the temple." And so,
Mm,
we get into the over there. It's called Grab. It's the same thing
mm,
as Uber. So we get in
mm,
our Grab, and for some reason, the address gave me and dropped us off oh, 3 miles down from the temple.
Oh man.
I'm freaking out
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she's calling me, and now I'm on a bad knee. I've just had knee surgery, but
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
my knee was tore up
Mm-hmm,
and I
mm-hmm.
was limping around. And I'm like, my girlfriend and I, we're just going to hoof it because it's such a busy
Yeah.
street in Bangkok. We're
Yeah.
going to try to hoof it. And she calls me up and she's like, "Hey, we're here. Where are you guys?" And I'm
Mm-hmm,
like, "I don't know what happened. It's the wrong address." And I'm starting to
mm-hmm.
freak out. And I'm like, "I'm so sorry we're late. I'm so sorry we're late." I'm like, "I'm sure you've already seen him. And this is where a normal person, good person, sorry."
No, you're good.
She's like, "No, I haven't seen him." She's like,
Uh-huh.
We're going to wait for you."
Oh, that's
Like
so
he's
sweet.
literally right there. And she goes, "Doug," she goes, "You're his father." Like she's
Yeah.
like, "We're not going to go in until we can all go in together. Just
Oh, that's
like calm
sweet.
down." And she's like, when you get here, you get here. It's okay. And I was like,
Yeah.
I started crying like I am now. And my girlfriend's like, oh my God, I love her. She's like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so we ended up getting another grab and we ended
Yeah.
up getting there like 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
And she was outside waiting for us with her husband and their little
Yeah.
daughter, his half
Yeah.
sister. And we all walked together to go see my
Yeah.
son for the first time.
Yeah. That's,
It's just, that's
that's
what a
very
normal person
sweet.
does who has empathy, who's
Yeah.
nice, you
Yeah.
know, yeah,
Well, and that's the thing. I think that, so many in other episodes, I plan on talking about family court and high conflict personalities and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of that. And the family court does not help that. They stoke
right.
that conflict. So if you can,
Well, his mom
as
and I
a,
didn't go to court. His mom and I didn't
yeah,
go to court.
see, that's
We
that's
sat
that's
down at
why.
the kitchen table and
That's
came up
why.
with our own agreement.
That is exactly why there is not this idea that you got to fight. And I think that for a lot of people, a lot of this high conflict personality can come out on that. So
Yeah,
I know that when my husband and I got married, um, in 2020, I think it was when we got married. And oh, it's right in front of my face. I have a little sign. In 2020, when we got married, one of the things that he asked me about, even though I hadn't talked to my mom since she had done that to him, was, did you want to invite your mom? I was like, oh, hell no. Like, there's no
right,
way.
right.
And his mom and dad uh separated when he was little. He's got a stepdad. They all get along. Like all
Yeah.
of them get along. And it's so amazing. And my dad couldn't make it down. He's up in Oregon and he couldn't make it down, which was totally fine with me. I was like, don't worry about it. My dad has had some medical challenges. He had a stroke about 25 years ago. And so I was like, that relieves some of the pressure for me in regards to, okay, who do I have to take care of? My daughter
Right.
is an adult, she's 30. You know, my daughter, my bonus daughter, and my sister-in-law were in our bridal party. And to watch my husband's parents, so all three of them, his stepdad, his mom, and his dad, all like sit down next to each other and get along with each other and like prioritize him, like him as an adult, was one of the most beautiful things that I think
Absolutely.
I've ever seen. Because,
You
you
didn't have
know,
it.
yeah, and he often says this, just because they're not together anymore doesn't mean that there is not some kind of attachment because they have
Right.
him.
Right.
And no matter how like crappy marriage is, that's your kid.
Yeah.
Sometime you did like them. That's the big thing.
Right.
So,
I mean,
um,
when we were in Thailand, like her husband, Kevin, is like a really nice guy, but he's an introvert. He's the opposite of me. He's a computer tech wizard. And so when we were in Thailand, he was the one on the computer booking our flights because we had flights all over the country once we were in the country. Because my son served his mission all over it's a big country and we
I
had to
love
like
that.
take different
Mhm.
flights, right? And so he was the one booking the flights for all of us. He was the
Oh
one figuring
wow.
out all the stuff, and then he would just pay for it, and then I would sell him the money for us,
Hmm.
and then there were times where like we're buying stuff and we didn't
Hmm.
have enough bot, which is the cash
Hmm.
over there. We're
Hmm.
running low. He's got more. He's running low. I've got more. Don't worry about it. I got it. And but it got to where we were nitpicking like over like 10 baht, which is like a
Right.
dollar in US. We're like, dude,
Yeah.
at a certain point we laughed. We're like, it's okay. And I
Right.
know my son loved that. My son was just
That's
beaming.
that's
Yes,
huge. You
yes,
know, I haven't told this story before, but I think that this actually would be really healing. So, my daughter, I was not a nice person to her dad. I iced him out. And just over the course of the last 11 years, I've, really um, worked on making sure that because I created this loyalty conflict in her, to let her know that that's her dad. And
yeah.
so just recently we had to do some things together where I called and talked to him. And here's the thing that I think, let me preface this with, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. So even if you mess up, And, I hate that it lasted this long, but even if you mess up, you can do the right thing. So I say that to all the mothers who are parent alienating their kids, like it's never the wrong time to do the right thing.
Right.
And so my daughter, her dad lives in Las Vegas, and I was calling him about something to talk about our daughter. And I was talking to him, and I mean, we were together in high school. It's been
Mm-hmm.
30, 32 years, 35
Yeah.
years since,
Yeah.
we graduated and all that stuff happened. And I was talking to him about our daughter and about, some things that were going on. And I was like, I really just want to get your opinion. And he was like, oh, um, and, yeah, let me pause just really quickly.
Sure.
Honey, I'm going to send you some messages I'm getting just really quick. Okay. Let me just send this to him. Okay. Okay. When he and I were talking, I went back and I talked to my daughter about this, and I said, hey, I'm talking to your dad about this, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, why? And I said that it's really important that you get an opinion from both of us, because it's not just, me that's your parent. It's also your dad. And she was like, oh, okay. And so it's taken some time, but I think it's a really important thing. So I just want to highlight the fact that you two have done that. I think that's really important. And I would love to hear, and I know like you had a relationship with your former stepdaughter, but I would love to hear what it looked like. And I know I didn't prep you with this. So but I would love to hear what it looked like with your former stepdaughter's dad and your ex-wife, and how they related with each other. Like, did she keep the kids from him? Because I find that very common in narcissistic abusers.
Yes. So I was friends with him
Mm-hmm,
before
mm-hmm,
her and I got married. And so there was we knew each other and whatever. And so it was for about 10 of those 12 years, like he and I hated each other. We weren't friends any longer, obviously.
mm-hmm,
And they had a very strict, like the most complicated, the most strictest, weirdest custody agreement I've ever seen. Where it was the basics where it was 7 on, 7 off, right?
interesting.
Um,
Okay.
so they were at home with us for a week. They were at home for him with him for a week, but yet he did travel for work. She had tons of double standards. Like
Mm-hmm,
that was the biggest thing was his wife was not allowed to pick up their kid on their time. It's his week. He's at work. The oldest son or somebody needs to be picked up from school. His wife was not allowed to pick them up, but yet I
mm-hmm,
was. You know, there was when he would travel for work, he would, send her an email and say, hey, look, I'm going to be out of town this week. It's my week, or it falls into maybe two
mm-hmm,
days of my
mm-hmm,
week. Can I make up the time and keep them? No, absolutely not. So
mm-hmm,
she used it to her, she used his work travel to her advantage because she had more time with the kids.
mm-hmm,
And it
mm-hmm.
was so bad, you
Well,
know?
and I want to talk a little bit too about your former stepdaughter and what
Yeah.
your relationship was like with her, because it
Yep.
sounds like the relationship that her mom was trying to ice out their dad. So
Yes.
what was the relationship like with you and your stepdaughter? And then just kind of the lies and false accusations
Yeah.
against you, like what happened?
They have two kids. There's an older son who lives out of state. Him and I are good. I was there for everything. He was there for every single event,
Mm-hmm,
every
mm-hmm,
single
mm-hmm,
thing. So it was kind of like she had two dads, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So her and I were extremely close. She confided in me in things that I'm not going to talk about on here.
mm-hmm. Of
Uh,
course.
that I promised her I would never tell her mom, and I never did. This is
Mm-hmm,
when she
mm-hmm,
was in her later teens.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But yeah, her and I were extremely close, and she would confide in me. I would give her advice. We'd go out and to Dick's Sporting Goods, and I'd get her the gloves she needed or the cleats she
mm-hmm,
needed.
mm-hmm.
And it's funny because she made up this saying for me. make it fun. And she actually
Hmm.
she made me a beaded bracelet that said, when she was younger, it said, make it fun, because she said, Doug always makes it fun.
I
And
love it.
that slogan came from a night at like 9 o'clock at night. She needed something for softball, and her mom didn't want to take her because her mom yelled at her and said, "You should have been better prepared. You should have known this ahead of time. I am not taking you to the sporting goods store." And she's like begging me to do it. I'm tired, but I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I was like, I really don't want to go out this late. Come on. And she looked at me and she goes, "Oh, come on, Doug. You always make it fun. Let's go, make it fun." And that was
Hmm.
where that slogan came from.
I love it.
And yeah, so now we're going to fast forward to, which I consider to be child abuse. When I moved out temporarily, she immediately manipulated her own daughter, and she immediately got her on her team, and she
Hmm.
immediately started lying about me. He was cheating on me. He was doing this on his credit card, that on his credit, like all these different things.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
she really turned her against me very quickly.
Hmm.
And how I saw that erode away was, she worked at a local grocery store that was right next door to the gym that I still go to today. And I knew she had worked there part time, but whatever. This was at the beginning of the separation. And I was at the gym with my buddy, and he said, "Hey, let's go next door, get some food, and come back to my house." We were going to work on his Jeep or something. I'm like, okay. So we go to the store and we walk in, and I was aware that she may be there, but I'm not giving it any thought. It's a freaking grocery store in my neighborhood. So we walk in, we go get our stuff, and I'm sorry, that's the big grocery store. Back up.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's the big story. We got to tell you that at the end.
Okay.
No, I
Okay.
went there by myself one day,
Hmm.
and this is the transition. I walked by, and so I'm walking in, I'm walking out, and I see her on the other doors walking in.
Hmm.
And there she is. And I
Hmm.
said, "Hi." I said her name.
Hmm.
And I said, "Hi." And she actually looked at me and she smiled and waved and went inside. So that was like, okay, I get
Hmm.
it. We're going through a divorce, separation, whatever.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
probably feeling awkward, not a big deal. Didn't think it was anything weird. This second time I went to that store was like a month later. Now I'm in line and she's in my aisle and she's bagging groceries. She sees me, looks fear in her eyes. She turns her back, goes over to the cash register next to me, and starts yakking it up with the cashier. And I can hear her laughing really loud, like making it obvious she's laughing nervously. And I walk out. She turned her back to me, and I'm like, okay, that was elevated a bit.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
we went from waving to each other to now she turns her
Hmm.
back on me and she's nervous and scared. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Now, the third one was when I was with my friend and we went together to get the food. It's very
Hmm.
crowded. We walk up to the aisle. This is like right in the middle of COVID. So
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
the store, people are wearing masks. Him and I aren't wearing masks, but all the workers are just towards the end when like the workers were still required to wear the mask. So we walk up, and I just picked the aisle that was least crowded. And
Hmm.
as I get closer, I now see she's the cashier. And I turn around and look at my friend and I go, "Oh my gosh, she's the cashier." And he's like, "So what? Who cares? Like, just say hi and move on with your day."
Yeah.
As
Yep.
we get closer, I'm standing right almost next to her, and she sees me and she picks up the phone, and over the loudspeaker over the whole store, in a very scared voice, she's like, "Can I get a manager to check stand three? Can I get a manager to check stand three?" Like she's panicking in her voice over the whole loudspeaker, and everyone's looking this way now. And I look back at my friend like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Oh my god, like what the hell?"
Hmm.
And then her phone rings and she picks
Hmm.
it up because they called her, and she whispers, "Oh my god, my stepdad is here. My stepdad is here." Two men sprint over. Like this was like rehearsed. Like, what did she tell them about me?
Right.
Right? My
Right.
abusive stepdad is, if he walks in here, you have to save me. And they rush over to her aid, run, and the minute they go to the counter, she turns and runs, wailing and crying. She sprints. She runs down the freaking store to the exit. And I'm just standing there. I haven't said a word. And all the guy says to me is, "How you doing today, sir?" And I'm like, "I'm fine. How are you?" And he rings me up. I wait for my friend. We walk out the door, and I am like, what in the hell just happened? Right. And so
I don't think people
this is not the
understand.
girl that I
Right.
was
Helped
close
raise.
with. And
Yeah.
that's when I realized she's been coaching her, she's been training her to
Hmm.
believe that I'm a bad guy. And then
Hmm.
I found out from her dad just recently in the last year or two, because this was 5 years ago.
Hmm.
In the last year or two, he told me that the reason she's still mad at me, she has me blocked on her social media. Like, I don't care at this point. Her dad said the reason why she's mad at me is because um, she said, Dad, I don't know how you can be friends with him because he sat me down before he moved out and he told me that you're a narcissist. And he told me that you're not a good dad and that you're a narcissist. And we're both laughing. And I
Yeah.
said, bro,
So
I
he
didn't even know
knows.
what that
Yeah.
word meant when I was still married. He was like, I know, dude, it's all coming from her mother. So she has gaslit her own daughter and making her believe that I had a conversation with her telling her that her
Yeah.
dad is a narcissist.
It's so crazy
Crazy.
because I know, like, I know when my parents got divorced, my mom told me that the courts told her I didn't have to see my dad. And then, and that my dad didn't fight for me.
Right.
And my dad told me much later into my 20s that my mom had told the court that I didn't want to see him because of the way my parents got divorced. And at the time, that was like that there wasn't all these other rules where, they have to bring now that, like I said, family court's a whole nother thing. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
later. But, and when my husband met my dad and I had said, oh, my dad didn't want me, all the things that were still very ingrained in my head. And my husband met my dad. He's all, your mom was totally lying to you. Your dad, like, loves you to death. And like, you can do no wrong. And your dad will still love you. And I was like, no, 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 no. And it's taken time. And some of the stuff is still in there. I mean, I'll be 50 next year, but some of that stuff is still in my head where like if my dad calls, I still have the same reaction. My phone calls, my dad comes through all the time. Like it rings through, my mom's down. So I have the same reaction. My dad's calling. I'm like, oh, my dad's calling. And he's
Are they
like, your
still
dad's
married, your mom and dad?
no, no,
Oh,
no, no.
okay.
No, they've
Okay.
been divorced for over 35 years now.
Okay.
Like, and they cannot be in the same room with each other. When my daughter graduated from high school about 13 years ago, and both my mom and my dad came to her graduation. I had to sit them down beforehand, and they had been divorced then 25 years. I had to sit them down before and say, this is not more for my mom. This is not your day. This is her day. And knock your shit off. And my dad was like, no problem. I got it. Because it wasn't him. And I had warned him that I was going to do this before. My mom's all, well, if he blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you've been divorced for 25 years. Who cares? You're remarried. You don't even live in this area. Give it up. Like, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's,
I wasn't allowed to go to my former stepdaughter's high school graduation. And this was right after I moved out. So it's still very early in the temporary
so
separation.
yeah.
And I felt
Oh,
there should be no reason why I can't go to her high school graduation.
yeah.
I don't have to sit with her family or her,
Yeah. No, you're just going to
whatever.
watch.
I just want to watch and give her a hug and say, I'm so proud of you. And
Yeah.
why can't, as adults, we put our right what
Well,
normal
and
people
even
do?
if you just watched it, I bet you
I did.
if
I'm
you
going to tell
would
you
have
what happened.
right. Good.
So, and I
Concur.
remember that in
Concur.
marriage
Yeah.
counseling, I asked her, and she's like, "No, she doesn't want you there." I'm like, "Okay, no, it's not her not wanting me there; it's you not wanting me there, and
Yeah.
you're
Ugh.
projecting that onto her."
Hard.
So,
I'm
her
sorry.
dad, my friend, was trying to find ways to get me in, and he was like, "So, what I ended up doing was I ended up just driving my Jeep up to the back side street behind the
Yeah,
school. I
yeah.
knew how to get in there." And the gate was open, and there's this big empty field where there was overflow parking.
And you can
And
see her from
I
there.
got out my lawn chair and I watched above the stadium from a distance. You could hear everyone on the loudspeakers,
Yep.
and I watched it from afar.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I'm a little bit petty. So the house is right across the street from the high school. I told you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I made sure I gave it enough estimated time, and I drove my loud, obnoxious four-wheel drive Jeep. I was like, I'm just going to go past the house, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew her
Yeah.
family was there, the cars were
Yeah.
there. Unknowns to me, when I was driving past the house, the light turned red. So I'm sitting there and I look over and there's my ex and my stepson and her mom and her
Uh-huh.
dad. They're all
Uh-huh.
standing at the corner to walk home. And there's Doug in his Jeep. And I look over and she's just glaring at me. And I look back at my stepson and he's got the biggest smile on his face.
Yeah, fuck her.
So
Screw
she
that
knew, yeah.
noise. Like, seriously, it's not about, I mean, that's the thing. Like, when it comes to kids, it's not about you. Like, no matter how much you hate your ex, like, you should love your kids more. And
Yeah. And
that's how I feel about that.
yeah. And the last communication I had with my ex stepdaughter was that night. I dropped flowers off at the house
Hmm.
before the graduation started,
Hmm.
and I didn't say anything. I just dropped flowers off, and she actually texted me and said, "Thank you for the flowers. I really
Hmm.
appreciate it." And I said, "You're more than welcome." And she
Hmm.
said, "I miss you."
Aw.
And I said, "I miss you more." Those were the
Aw.
last last
Hmm.
communication we ever
Hmm.
had, and it
Hmm.
all went downhill from there.
Downhill from there.
So you're
I'm
telling
really
me
sorry.
a
Mhm.
girl who says I miss you is going to change within a month to running
No,
away from me at a grocery store?
no.
And it was so sad. And it's just sad. It's just a whole sad.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, and
Oh, that's what I remember what I was going to tell you. Sorry.
yeah.
The
No, go
biggest
ahead.
lie, the biggest
Yeah.
lie, I ran into a softball mom that I knew because I have a side DJ business. I was DJing in the elementary
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
I ran into a softball mom whose daughter is still good friends with my ex stepdaughter. The big lie I found out was that she was telling all of her friends that I'm sure she got from her mom was that I lived a double life and that I had a wife and other kids in Northern California. That's why I used to always go to Northern California.
Mhm.
It's crazy, man. I'm finding out it's a smear campaign. I'm finding
Yeah.
out, years later that these were the things that were being said, and nobody believes them. Like the
Yeah.
mom literally looked at me and
Yeah.
she goes, "You were at everything. You were at every softball game, every baseball game, everything. You were there, and the dad was there, and you were all." And
Yeah.
like, and she even said, "We always knew something was off about her, the
Right.
mom, not the
Yeah.
daughter, mom.
Yeah.
Like we know she's lying. Like, because how could you be an abusive person if you're like
Yep.
DJing at the schools and you're the life of the party and everybody's, you're always there for your kids. How can you have a double life and have another family
That's
somewhere?"
so crazy. Speaking of DJing, so one of the things that you shared was that she was spying
Oh,
you when you
yeah.
would DJ. So, like, tell me what that was like
Oh,
for you,
oh.
like when you found out,
Well,
like
do we
what?
have enough time to
How,
tell you like what happened real quick?
yeah, of
I'll try to get
course.
through it. So this was
Yeah.
now towards the end of as the divorce is getting really thick and the accusations are flying. So one of my best friends who he was my apprentice. I taught him how to DJ. I had legitimately quit the DJ business.
Yeah.
Like I was literally because I mean her whole thing was that I'm lying about my income and she's trying to get more alimony out of me and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was not trying to avoid paying more alimony. I wasn't DJing anymore because I couldn't do it. It was physically, emotionally exhausting. I was doing
Yeah.
weddings. I was hiding behind my stand, breaking down,
Yeah.
crying because
Yeah. Yeah.
I watched this beautiful wedding and I'm the DJ
Yeah.
and then I'm going through all
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
So I just quit. So my friend had a little wedding at a little venue in Rancho Cucamonga,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
he was all set to do it. And he calls me up in a panic when he gets there, and he's like, "Oh my God, my speakers aren't working. I don't know what's wrong. Can you please come and help me?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's not safe for me to come. I have a I have a court mediation date like on Tuesday. This is Saturday, so like in 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be in court with her." And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
"I can't." He was like, "God, I'm begging you, please, please." I'm like, against my better judgment,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
went down there in the Tahoe, right? And I took my speakers because his speakers were not working. So we set
Mm-hmm.
my speakers up. I'm like, okay, they work. I gotta go. He's like, no, please stay. Just help me. Like, don't like he didn't pay me or nothing. He's like, just help me, help me.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Mm-hmm.
he's
Mm-hmm.
nervous. He's not as good as I am at weddings. And So I'm like, fine. So I'm standing there just kind of helping him, whatever. Well, the parking lot, so he posted a picture on his Instagram of where he was. I was not in the picture, but he posted a picture of where he was. Boom. That's how she figured out where he was. So I know what went down. Hey, daughter and boyfriend, go
Mm-hmm.
down to this location and see if Doug is there so I can prove that he's DJing, right? And they did. So we're standing there, and literally the parking lot is feet away, 20 feet away from where we're set up outside. And so it's a really tight parking lot. And
Mm-hmm.
our cars are
Mm-hmm.
backed up to the sidewalk so we can unload and go set up. And so all of a sudden, he had to go to his van to grab something, and he
Okay.
comes walking back. And there's a hill. We're on top of this hill, and down the hill, there's the dance floor. Everyone's dancing,
Mm-hmm.
having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So they really can't see us as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he comes back from his car and he goes, "Dude, there's some girl like walking around taking pictures." And I'm like, okay. He's like, "What do you think that's about?" I'm like, "It's probably somebody that wants to check the place out to have a party."
Mm-hmm. Have a party, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay." So a few minutes go by. He goes back to his van. He comes back and he goes, "They're still here. Like, what the hell? That they're in that truck, and that truck, they're just sitting in that truck and they haven't moved."
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
turn around and I walk now towards this truck. And as I'm walking towards it, I see it's her boyfriend, who I was also really close with. I see it's her boyfriend. I don't see her. She was hiding behind the back seat. I see it's him, and him and I lock eyes, and I'm like, "Oh shit."
Mm-hmm.
I turn
Mm-hmm.
around. I don't get within 10 feet of his truck. I turn around. I walk back, and I go, "Oh my god, it's so and so and so and so." And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, dude." Now by this, so what does he do? Complete freaking moron. I was so pissed at him. He's very volatile.
Mm-hmm.
So now her boyfriend's trying to panic and get out of the parking spot to leave, and he has to do like a 3-point turn. My buddy, it's his gig. I have nothing to do with this. He
Mm-hmm.
jumps in his van and pulls forward and blocks him in. And he's blaring on his horn while the people are dancing. And I'm screaming at my friend Joe, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
"Stop. What are you doing? They're just kids." But the windows are up. He can't hear me. He
Right.
ends up getting around him. And what does my friend do? He takes off and chases him.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm standing there. What just happened?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I walk over to the DJ stand, and the song's about to end. So I start playing music. Like, what am
Right.
I going to do?
Right.
And so then he finally comes back after about 5 minutes, and I am freaking laying into him. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "I'm sorry, but nobody messes with my gig." I'm like, "Dude, stop. I'm leaving. This is crazy. I have to now go
Mm-hmm.
home and email my attorney."
Yes,
And
because of
so,
what happened, right?
so I go home and I email my attorney this long ass thing. And we get on an emergency call at $400 an hour on Monday morning, a day before
Mm-hmm.
court. And she just, at first, she's calm and she's like, "Take me through minute by," that's why my attorney was
Like
so
what
good.
happened? Yeah.
Minute by minute by minute. She wanted minute by minute. And I told her everything. And when she got it all down, she freaking yelled at me. She gave me the riot act. She's like, "I don't give a
Yeah.
shit if your friend paid you or not. What are you doing there?" She goes, "This
Mm-hmm.
looks very bad." And
Mm-hmm.
our whole thing is that you retired from DJing, and now she has pictures of you standing in front of a DJ stand.
Right.
And it ended up
Right.
not going anywhere, thank God. Um, because in mediation, she actually, I'll just say this, in mediation, my she shot back that he is making money DJing and I have proof. And my attorney shot back, absolutely false. He was not paid, and da 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 da. And we have proof that he was not paid. And then we looked at her and she didn't say anything. And never, I'm like, "Oh, okay." She never
Mm-hmm.
even,
Mm-hmm.
so she never showed pictures. She never did anything. So it ended
That's
up going
so
nowhere.
crazy.
It's crazy.
Well, and I think that people who haven't been through, and I would say a divorce with a narcissist or a high conflict divorce, they haven't been through it. They don't understand um, what happens in it. Like that is like a very like loose, like very like calm type thing to know that she was like surveilling you to try to find out more information to get
Yes.
this to get more
Yes.
money. I've seen like on Instagram, people talk about how their ex will jump on their car, their ex-wife will jump on their car while they're trying to leave with the kid for their time. It's like, it's crazy. And I, say this often, and I'll say this now, that I think that no one understands what happens until it happens, number one. Number two, there is not a cookie cutter way to get a divorce. You just said it yourself. You and your ex-wife, your baby's, your kid's mom sat down and you drew everything out. And for some people, that works really well. In fact, if you would have inserted court into it, it would have been horrible. Right. Because y'all would have fought about stuff that you wouldn't have even thought about, right?
And one thing I didn't mention is that I have a 28-year-old daughter who I'm very close with my first wife, a different mom. That's why the book is called Third Time Was Not a Charm, because it was the third marriage, right?
Yeah.
So my first wife, we were very young, very naive, very stupid. We get along now. She lives in Ohio. I just saw her when we were back in Ohio for my for a big event, and she is still close with my extended family in Ohio.
I love it. I love it.
Right. And so, but when we first got divorced, it was your typical at that time. We both hired attorneys. We both went to court. Yeah. We were bickering over the stupidest stuff. It got to the point to where she called me up one day and she said, "You know what? This is just stupid. The only people getting rich are our attorneys because they're just dragging this out, making us fight. So we whatever." And she goes, "I got a proposition for you and I'll put it in writing. Fire your attorney. We'll use my attorney. We'll split the file.
Just do one.
Just go." And I'm like, done. She sent me the document. We both signed it. I fired my attorney. It's like, F you. And we went with her attorney and it was done in like less than a week. She was in a new relationship, and this drug out for like 2 years. So I was now just starting to date my son's mom, and so it was a win-win for everybody. So yes, it was bitter in the beginning, but the attorneys made it way more than it needed to be. And we both realized that we're both normal people. And how do we end this? And we had an amicable relationship when I pick up my daughter for my weekends and like whatever, And
right, because that's the way it's and again, that's the way it's supposed to be, because when you decide that you're going to bring someone into this life, and it's your responsibility to make sure they have both their parents. Yeah. And who cares if you hate them? Like, really? Like, what I say to this is, I don't fucking care. You have to deal with this. You made that decision.
You did love them, and you had a child with them.
So dumb.
So now, being the third time, I'm not used to being drug into court.
Right.
False accusations of domestic violence. No, we didn't own a home. We didn't have a big property. We didn't own a business together. We had no kids together. My attorney was like, I could do this divorce in a week. But yet she drug it out for a year. And it cost me $40,000 in attorney's fees.
Oh my God. Because
financial abuse.
Yeah, that's a financial abuse. And granted, I will say that, if the lawyers are not causing the conflict purposely, and it sounds like your lawyer wasn't.
No.
It sounds like her lawyer probably was.
And then her lawyer either fired her or she fired her attorney. Because everything, remember this, we all know this slogan. Narcissist accusations are their confessions.
Yes.
He was accusing me of hiding income. We'll stay there. Cheating on her, domestic violence.
Yeah, whatever. All the stuff.
The main one here that we're going to focus on is she was accusing me of hiding income. So she made me do discovery. I didn't know what discovery was. My attorney calls me one day and says, "You need to do discovery." She's demanding it. What is that? We got to go through 3 years of your financial records. I did it. It was horrible to do it. And what did it result in? Nothing new, nothing different. But thank God, you know what I said to my attorney? I said, "Well, if she's making me do it, can I make her do it?" And she's like, "Sure, if you want to." And I said, "Yes." So I made her do it. And guess what we uncovered? She was hiding income. He was falsifying her documents. Yeah. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me? So
they always. So
that dropped my alimony way down.
Good. And, I'm glad.
And I just made my final payment in February.
Yes. Hold on. Let me see if the Mac will do it. Yes. Yeah. Yay!
Ah!
Yay!
Yeah, I had to pay her for
Congratulations.
4 years of alimony. It was via Venmo. And on that last payment on Venmo, you can make a comment. There were
Oh
so
yeah.
many snarky things people telling me to say, but I took the high road and said final payment February 2026, and then I blocked her on Venmo.
Did you screenshot it so that you could
Oh, it's
like,
always in there. Yeah,
oh,
it's always
so
in
you
there.
should screenshot that so you can print it out and put it up somewhere as your like trophy of dealing with a whack ass bitch is all I have to
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
So like that's crazy. Well, congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
We talked a little bit about like how there's like flying monkeys, and flying monkeys, so people understand, are kind of the people who like build, they pass on the information to, and they act as a, it's just like in Wizard of Oz, as the person who's going to abuse them, like it's an additional person. So I, and someone, if you go to, they're going to say, no, that didn't really happen. No, that didn't go on. No, that didn't, no, I don't
Right,
believe
right.
that. And that I think is the maniacal part that makes them the narcissist, because they use their influence, their power, all of those things, and their control to be able to do that. One of the things that you mentioned that you wanted to share with us, to kind of talk more about this and so people can see, and I think it's like a charcuterie board. People can take pieces from it and create and say, oh my God, my mom's a narcissist, my dad's a narcissist, my significant other's a narcissist, my best friend's a narcissist, whatever it is, so that they can get these people out of their lives. So tell me about the cigar story. Like what
Oh,
happened? What's the moment that showed you about this power and control?
so this was right when the temporary separation started, and
Mm-hmm,
I now understand she realized she could no longer control me.
mm-hmm,
So she
mm-hmm,
now has to control the narrative. She has to
mm-hmm,
control whatever she can control.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
I had gone to the house to to drop my dog off because I was seeing my dog, whatever. And it was
mm-hmm,
a really hot day. My friend was waiting in the car, and I walked up to her, and I got to tell you the story because this is also going to talk about when the mask slips off.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She was really nice and friendly, and I said, "Hey, can I?" Remember, I'm still on that lease. I'm paying the rent.
Yeah,
And I said, "Hey, can I go in? My water hydro thing was empty." And I
yeah,
said, "Hey,
yeah.
I'm going to go in the house real quick and fill up the water." She goes, "Oh, no, no,
Mm-hmm,
I'll do it." And I'm like, that was weird. She was really weird about it. She's like, "No,
yeah,
give it to me. I'll do it." And I remember when she walked away, I looked at her and I said, I made the comment. I said, "What? I can't even go into my house anymore?"
yeah,
And she turned her head, snapped her head around. She goes, "You don't live here anymore." And that's the mask right there coming
yeah,
off,
yeah.
right?
It's like
So I
that.
was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, whatever. She went in, got the water, came back out, handed me the water. And she goes, "Oh, by the way, Jet is smoking cigars." And I go, "What? No, he's not." She goes, "Well, either he is or you are." And I go, "What are you talking about? My son does not smoke cigars. I don't smoke cigars. I do now occasionally because
Yeah,
whatever. But I didn't
yeah,
back then. And who cares if I
yeah,
did? It's not a crime. I'm a grown man.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
didn't. I truly did
yeah,
not smoke them.
yeah, yeah.
I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." She goes, "Well, I found a dried up cigar in his bedroom on his floor." I said, "Then you go get it and you tell
And
me,
show it to me.
show it to
Yeah.
me." She goes, "No, I'll send you pictures." And at the time, remember, my friend's waiting in the car. We have a DJ gig we got to get to, so I don't
Yeah,
have time to
yeah.
play with her. I said, "Fine." I left. I'm really pissed off. We get in the car. She sends me a picture of this dried up cigar in a sandwich baggie on my son's floor next to his bed. We're going to get to that revelation in a minute. And at the time, my brain is going, "I've seen that somewhere. Like, what
Hmm.
is this? What the, you know?" And then it
Yeah.
dawns on me. A year earlier, my mom had given me a box of high school memorabilia that I
Hmm.
took and put on the top shelf of my son's closet.
Hmm.
That was the cigar that my dad handed out when I was born.
Oh,
It was a family memento.
what a bitch.
So I said, I called her and I told her what it was. And I said, "You put that cigar back right now because that was
Hmm.
given to me from my mom. It was the cigar that when I was born." And she goes, "Well, it's too late. I already destroyed it." And I go, "What?" She goes, "I cut it open. I wanted to make sure there were no drugs in it." I'm like, "You fucking diabolical." And I was like so pissed and so hurt.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to when I wrote the book. I'm writing this story in the book, and it again, these things are delayed. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you wish you could have confronted them with what you know is the truth at the time, but it didn't dawn on me at the time because my brain is still in a fog. I'm in trauma bond, and I'm
Yeah.
writing now the book, and I'm writing the cigar story, and I'm looking at the picture, and I go, "What the?" This was like 2 weeks after I moved out. You don't. I'm putting it together.
Hmm.
I'm in my son's room 1,000 times a day. You
Hmm.
don't think I would know or my son would see that cigar laying on the floor? I know that I put it in the shoebox. I know it was on top of my closet. Huh. I move out. She's packing up my shit. I now know because of when I went to get my stuff, it was all packed up. So now I
Hmm.
know she was packing up my shit. She went into that closet. She found that cigar. She planted it, put it on the ground, took a picture, and sent it to me to falsely accuse me of my son smoking cigars.
It's crazy.
And
That's crazy.
it all comes
Hmm.
together. Like it's the
Yeah.
obvious answer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the
It's so
picture she sent me,
interesting.
you could see it right there in the middle of the
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
Sorry, I get worked
I
up.
get no, and I get worked up too. I get lit when I talk about this stuff. And it's so interesting because you mentioned the whole mask off thing. And when I say that, I literally can tell you what a voicemail is going to be. I can tell you word for word what it's going to be. It is, "Hi, Noelani. It's your mom. It's not like you know who I am. I haven't talked to you in a long time. It's been 11 years. I haven't talked to you in a long time. Oh, remember, I love you and I love Albert. I don't, she hasn't, she's met him one time. And that was when her finger was in his face. And I love the kids and then switch. You're horrible. I can't believe you're not calling me." And I'm like, whoa, like not even for 15 seconds. The woman hasn't talked to me in over 11 years, and not even for 15 seconds can she hold that shit together. That to me is crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's sad because I think about it and I think about, just in the last 11 years, things that I've been through or things that I would have loved to share with her. And I haven't been able to because she's a psychopath.
yeah.
And I'm
But
forever grateful for my mother in law and my chosen family because I can ask these questions, ask, normal things that you would ask a parent at this age,
mhm.
um, about jobs or about, like for me, for perimenopause or various things where I can ask these things to my mother in law. And she is really honest because she knows that I don't have a relationship with my mom. And I think for a lot of people who have experienced this, when it is a parental figure, if it is someone that they've been married to, that's the toughest thing. It's that you've created this life and it's like all a lie. And it just like it's come shattering down. And you wrote a book about this, which
Mhm.
I think is really, really brave. And you wrote it under a pen name
Yeah.
originally. And
I wish I hadn't, but I did.
but it's okay. It's just when you
I
did
was
it.
worried
So
about retaliation, and I did. I
that's
took all
fair.
precautions. I changed everyone's name. I
That's
didn't do
fair.
anything that was just my story, the truth. And I talked to before I wrote it or after it was done, before I published it, before it was published, I called a defamation attorney and just like, look, this is the situation. Here's the thing. I
Mhm.
paid for a 1 hour consult, and I said,
Yeah.
what do I, is there any way she could come back and say? He goes, no, because you're not violating any laws.
Mm-mm.
You're not doxing her. You have a disclaimer in there that you're not an expert, that this is just your
Mm-hmm.
story. He said, the only thing I would do to make sure that it seals it is
Just change your
only
name.
going to be your name.
Yeah.
So
And
it
I
is.
totally get that.
Confusing.
And that's okay. And that's okay
Yeah.
because then later, now you're in this movie. And, tell me what
And
made you decide.
they asked me, do
Yeah.
you want to be Doug Buggle or Teddy Bears? I'm like, no, fuck, I'm Doug Buggle.
Well, tell me what made you decide to share your story, both in the book and in the movie.
So what made me share my story was, when I was on that Facebook group and I had first gone on Dimming the Gaslight and I had heard his story, Mac, the
Hmm.
host, tell his story
Hmm.
about what he's been going through and what he went through. And why he started his podcast
Hmm.
was because
Hmm.
more
Hmm.
men need to speak up about
Hmm.
abuse. Men are silenced. Men are
Hmm.
strong. Men are providers. Men aren't supposed to get
Hmm.
emotional.
Hmm.
Oh, if
Hmm.
the woman is acting this way, she's just please, no offense to any women.
No,
But
I know.
it's, if the woman is acting this way towards her man, then it's, oh, she must be her time of the month, or she must be in a bad mood.
No,
And,
because she's a
it can't
bitch
be anything
and she's
else.
just an abuser.
Bitch, like whatever. And
Yeah.
so the whole abuse has no gender thing, I actually got
Mm-hmm.
from Mac on Giving the Gaslight. He's the one that
Mm-hmm.
kind of started that, and I took it on too. And as I did the podcast, I thought, okay, that's not enough. Like I need to do more. I just felt like I needed to help other people because people have been helping me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I sat down. Okay, this is how the book started. So I had written her, a really good friend of mine who I was living with temporarily said to me, you need to journal. You need to, because I was
Mm-hmm.
emotional all the time. I was always
Yeah. Yeah.
this and that. And he's like, the best way is he bought me a journal and he's like, write down
100%.
your feelings. So I started doing that. And then what I decided to do was I wrote her a letter, which I never emailed her. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote her this letter that was basically calling her out on all of her stuff, which was very therapeutic, with no
Mm-hmm.
intention of ever sending it to her.
Mm-hmm.
And that letter turned into 16 pages.
Oh my gosh.
And I sent it to my mom, and then I
Mm-hmm.
sent it to her ex, my
Mm-hmm.
friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's like, all truth. This is crazy. This
Mm-hmm.
is a really good letter. And then each person I sent it to in my circle said, you should write a book. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I don't know how to write a book. I'm not a writer. Like, no, you're really good. Like, you can really tell a
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so after like 5 people telling me this, I went to my therapist at the time and I read him the letter.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was done, when I was done reading him the letter, I looked up at him and my therapist was crying.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Mm-hmm.
like, that was the most powerful thing I have ever read or heard, listened to. The way
Mm-hmm.
you articulate your emotions, the way you articulate
Mm-hmm.
what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Have
Mm-hmm.
you ever thought about writing a book? I'm like,
Okay,
God is
that's the
telling me
sign.
I need to write a
Yeah.
book. So I sat down one day and I wrote this book. And that letter, for anyone who wants to buy the book, that letter is the last chapter of the book.
Oh, see, and I haven't gotten to the last chapter, so I might just zoom
You need
through
to go
to
to
the
the
last
last chapter.
chapter.
It's
I'm going to.
called Goodbye, Tammy. And
Mm-hmm.
when the book is published, I had a real publisher. I
Mm-hmm.
paid to have it published, and they give you a
Mm-hmm.
content editor is
Mm-hmm.
one of the steps. And when she got a hold of me I had 3 hours with her,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that letter was somewhere in the middle. And she's the one that told me, you know what, you should make this letter. It's very powerful at the end. That should be the way the book ends. And then I told them, because they also do copy edit where they
Yeah,
correct
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
all this different stuff. I said, do not correct anything. I
Mm-hmm.
want that letter to be the way I wrote it. And they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
of course, it's your book. Like,
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
So there's not
Yeah.
really any grammatical errors because I'm really good at that. But
It's
if
okay.
you've read the book and then you go into that chapter, if you pay attention to the flow
The
and the
timing.
grammar, you'll
Mm-hmm.
see a difference where it goes from
Yeah.
a book to just me.
Yeah. And
Like,
that's totally okay. I mean, I think that, one of the things that I find about myself and about people that I interview is we over apologize or we over explain things.
I still do.
Yeah. And that
I over
really
explain
comes
things.
from the abuse because there was
Yeah.
a constant of us trying to explain the situation. I mean, I constantly do it. I still do it. I've been with my husband for 11 years and he'll be like, oh, what is this bag? Maybe I didn't
Yeah.
bring the groceries all the way up. And I'll go into this diatribe. He's like, I'm just asking you to bring it up. Like, it's okay. And I'm like, oh
My
my God, I'm
girlfriend
so
teases me too
sorry.
about that.
Yeah. Because it's just, I mean,
Yeah.
it's how I've always done it. And I think that that's a really important thing. And, before we end, one of my last questions, and I have a couple still left, but
That's fine.
what do you think, what is a male survivor experience and what gets often overlooked when people are trying to work with somebody who has been through this, or if somebody might want to be helping their friend who they see, this is not just a difficult relationship. This person is crazy.
Yeah.
What do they often overlook? Because for women, women's like, you need to leave him, blah, 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 blah. That's a common thing. But I don't know what it's like to be a male in that kind of situation. So what did you see from your friends, or what would you recommend people look for when they start to feel something's a little off?
Well, the obvious things are physical abuse. I mean, because it happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
happen in my situation, but
Yeah.
obvious things are the physical abuse, like marks on their body or bruises or whatever.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
things that are overlooked is what we've been talking about: the psychological abuse,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
devaluing, the making you feel
Mhm.
like you're worthless and not feeling bad about it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that gets overlooked too because men are not as willing as women to talk about their experiences
Mhm.
and talk
Mhm.
about what really went down.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I had friends that I would talk to while it was happening, and they were a good listening ear, but none of them ever said to me, I think she might be a narcissist, or you need to get out of that relationship. It
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
just them being friends of mine listening and then trying to give me some advice on how to handle it the next time it happens.
Right.
I
Right.
think that gets
Right.
overlooked. My mom and I are extremely close,
Mhm.
and my mom and dad had her pegged from day one, but they
That's yeah.
wrote
Mhm.
about that. The
Yeah.
very first meeting when before we were married,
Oh yeah, I read that.
yeah, where we were
Yeah.
sitting on the
And
patio
he was like, yeah.
and my mom was extremely close with my son's mom because we also lost a child.
I'm
She was a
sorry.
stillborn. Yeah, thank you. She was a
Mm-hmm.
stillborn, and my
Mm-hmm.
mom had come over before my son was born, and my mom had come over for like 3 weeks and took care of her while I was at
Oh,
work.
that's your
So they
mom's an
still have a
angel.
yeah, my mom.
Yeah.
So we were all sitting there, me and Tammy and my parents, and my you know she made the comment to my parents. She said, "Well, um, his son's mom is no longer his wife. I will now be his wife." And that's the mask coming off. And
Yeah.
my mom said, "Well, that may be true, Tammy, but just so you know, I have a very strong bond with Penny, and that bond will never go away."
Yeah.
And Penny is my son's mom's name. It's fine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the mask goes back on because my mom described it later as this. She goes, she got a really weird look on her face for like a half a
They
second,
they
and
ice
then the
over.
smile, and
Yeah.
oh, of course, I know, yeah, no problem, whatever. So my mom tells me that later, afterward, the divorce is happening. She goes, "Your
Yeah.
dad and I
Yeah.
were walking down the driveway after we said goodbye, and my dad goes, um, he better watch out. She's a manipulator."
Mm-hmm.
And my mom says, "I know. She wears a false face."
Oh wow.
And I said to
That's
my mom, "Why didn't
crazy.
you tell me?" She's like, "Doug, we
You
we couldn't
can't.
tell you. You wouldn't listen to anybody." And she goes, "We have two grandkids that we wanted to make sure were in our lives, and we didn't want to tell
Yeah.
you all this because then we were afraid you would get mad at us, and then we couldn't see our
Mm-hmm.
grandkids."
Well,
So
and that's the crazy thing. Like we have now, you are part of the club that has a special radar. We all have this narcissistic radar, right?
once you see it,
Like
you can't
you
unsee
can't
it.
unsee it. It's like
Right.
boom, narcissist, boom, narcissist. In every situation you're in every crowd that you're in. And I think that, I was helping a friend who was going through this situation. Like they were breaking up with she was breaking up with her husband, and I went with her to family court just to be there for support, and also to be like, hey, don't be extra, like don't withhold your kids, all that kind of stuff, just to like make it clear. And then her ex-husband like showed some payment. It was like a bill pay, like he was making a payment on bill pay, and says she has to pay for half of this because it's for the kids. And I looked
Yeah.
at it, I was like, he's lying. This is not this is not a receipt. This is her intending to pay. This is him intending to pay
Yeah.
the bill. So I mentioned that to her lawyer, and I said, watch, tell him that he's intending to pay the bill. Watch how quick this happens. And so her lawyer goes over and says, I appreciate that you're giving us this intention to pay the bill, and boom, like blow up. I wasn't intending to pay that bill. That's an actual receipt. Blah, blah. I was like, yeah, that's all it took. That's literally all it took. And when they took it in the court, the judge said the same thing. This is not a receipt. This is a bill pay.
Right.
She doesn't have to pay half of this. You give her a receipt, and then I will tell her she has to pay half of it, but you're not paying it.
Right.
And I think that to me is always the interesting thing, because it really doesn't take much. For everyone who's listening, the weakest people that I know around are narcissists. They're the weakest people. You call them on their shit and they instantly, it's like a cry. It's like trying to get out of it.
Or silent treatment.
our silent treatment, our, 20,000 things, but it's never the right thing. Like the quickest way to something is by doing the right thing. That's the way that, because you don't have to remember all these lies and figure everything
Right.
out. So
it's funny you talk about lies. It's like I had another podcaster tell me this. Like, I'm not expecting anyone to go listen to every single podcast I've done. I've done like maybe 8 or 10.
Oh wow.
But if you're a liar, your story changes over time.
Yes.
And that's why police are so good at, like, they bring in somebody suspected of murder and they bring in the good cop, the bad cop. They ask them the same questions over and over and over and over because if they're lying, they're eventually going to slip up and they're going to change their story, right?
Yes.
If you go back and listen to every single one of my podcasts, you can't make this shit up, man.
No, you can't. This is
verbatim from my book to the podcast. I don't care if it's
everything.
It's word for word because I do have a very good memory in that sense.
Yeah.
I remember things exactly as they happened, and this is what happened. And I can't make this up because you could listen to every podcast and you'll see it's exactly the same.
Well, and the thing about it is people don't tend to believe it because it's crazier than fiction. Like, you can't make some of the stuff up. It's crazier than fiction, and it actually did happen.
How could I dream up the cigar story? How could I dream up
like that's fucked up. That's really fucked up.
Oh, and so go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, you go.
We were talking about the financial thing, and you had mentioned how about her family was supporting her.
That
was not happening during the marriage. That she was so adamant about, you do not go to family for help. Like, you do not ask your parents for help. During the divorce, during the discovery, when I was going through her discovery, is when I saw her Venmo transactions. She had thousands of dollars in her checking account that I didn't know about. Yet her family and her brothers, her dad were sending her thousands of dollars going, you're a champion, you'll get through this.
Oh, barf.
And it's like really playing the victim and financially abusing them. It wasn't just me.
She was doing it to everyone.
I'm poor. I can't pay the rent. Doug abandoned. That was the big thing. I abandoned her and her daughter.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. That's what that was about.
That's
and I look at that and you just want to scream. Like, at the time, you're just like, you just want to scream because you know the truth.
Well, and that, that whenever I've done this, like I think every episode I do this, someone tells me just something outrageous. I can't, like, because you can't think of anything else.
Right.
Because, like, no curse word, no, like, frustration, me getting lit up, any of that stuff. It just, they suck so hard. Like, I can't even, I close my podcast with the same question every time. And I think that your answer is going to be really pertinent, because what I want is for, those males who are listening, cisgender men and trans men who are listening to this podcast and hearing what you've been through, and what would you want a survivor of a male survivor of narcissistic abuse to know, especially those ones who are just starting to see it, because I think your words are really going to sit really heavy with them to reflect.
Okay, so I want them to know that not everybody has the family and the friends support that I have. I understand that. And if you do, lean on your family, lean on your friends for support. If you don't have that, there are support groups out there. I went on Facebook and I immediately found a males only. It's called Men Only, and that's where I first put my questions in. I didn't know if I was going to get an answer, and immediately I got answers to what was going on. Like-minded men that are going, what we've talked about, the same thing. And that's where I first discovered the Dimming the Gaslight podcast. So lean on support groups, lean on your family and friends. And everybody says this, but I'm living proof that it's true. It will pass. It will get better.
Yes.
It will. I am in a very loving relationship. I have all my friends and family. I've healed from it. In the documentary is, do you feel like you've healed from the trauma bond? And I answered yes. I looked over at my girlfriend was there during the filming, and I looked over at her and I said yes. And they said, okay. And then when they cut, they asked her, do you think he's healed from it? And she said, no, absolutely not. And I was like, oh shit. And so she was fine with that. And then
Yeah.
when we were in a different scene towards the end,
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
different location of the house, they said, we want to ask you that question again. And
Yeah.
I said, no, I'm not. That was 2.5
Yeah.
years. So it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time.
It does.
And
It
you will
does.
get through it and you will
Well,
heal.
yeah. And give yourself
Focus
space
on yourself.
because, yeah. And I think give yourself space because it catches you. Like you think that you're healed and then it catches you. And you're like, oof. And, you know, I say my daughter definitely did save my life because I got out of that situation. And my husband definitely saved my life because I realized even no, like low contact was not enough. If in this last 11 years, I would have stayed in contact with my mom, I probably would have gone down a pathway that wasn't really good for me. Not in like addiction or anything like that, but just not taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And, you
Yeah.
know, just falling into, if I could vocalize all the things she said about me, I think that most healthy adults probably would cry. And that's the crazy thing. So, you know, Doug, I thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
It is an important thing. I am so excited to get this released so that people can hear. But thank you. I appreciate your willingness and your honestness. Thank you so much for joining us today for this incredibly important conversation with Doug Buggle. I think one of the biggest takeaways from today's episode is narcissistic abuse is about power, control, manipulation, and emotional destabilization, and it can happen to anyone. Whether you saw yourself in Doug's story as a survivor, raised as a child in chaos, or someone who's navigating a high conflict relationship, or someone who's finally putting to words the experiences you've struggled to explain for so long, I hope this episode reminded you that you're not crazy, you're not weak, and you're definitely not alone. Doug's willingness to speak openly helps break the silence and stigma around male survivors and reminds us all of how important it is to create space where people feel safe enough to tell the truth about what they lived through. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who may need it. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow Mommy Dearest wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, protect your peace, trust your nervous system, and remember, healing doesn't have to look perfect to still be healing. Until next time. Thank you for listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast. You're not broken, you adapted. Healing from a narcissistic mother is real, possible, and you never have to do it with shame. I'm your host, Noelani Pearl Hernandez, and until next time, take gentle care of yourself.
Your skin is a part of your nervous system, and taking care of it is essential to overall balance. Our products are specifically formulated to nourish your skin and bring you closer to homeostasis with every use. Start feeling better in your body today with the Happy Cannabis.